No one in the village believed a wild bobcat could love a human, until the day it saved a little girl from death, and changed both their lives forever. It was a warm, peaceful morning in the quiet village of Bawira, where houses were made of red clay, and roosters crowed like clockwork at sunrise. Children ran barefoot along dusty paths, laughter filling the air as they chased each other past open market stalls. The forest on the edge of the village was thick, mysterious, and full of whispered stories told by elders around evening fires. Most children were told not to venture too far into it. But Amaya was different. At only 7 years old, she had a wild spirit and eyes full of wonder. Her father used to say she had the heart of the wind, never still, never silent. She would often wander near the edge of the forest, picking wildflowers or chasing butterflies, always promising to stay within sight of the mango trees. But that morning, the butterflies went deeper, and so did she. The grass grew taller as she walked, and the air became cooler under the thick trees. Amaya wasn't scared, she had been here before. But as she reached out for a glowing blue butterfly perched on a leaf, the world changed in a heartbeat. With a sudden hiss and a blur of movement, a giant python uncoiled from the underbrush. Its thick, heavy body was longer than a grown man, and before Amaya could even scream, it struck, wrapping its muscular coils around her small frame. She tried to fight, but her arms were pinned. Her breath was squeezed from her chest. Her eyes filled with panic as the crushing weight tightened. Then, a sound. Low. Dangerous. A growl. From the shadows of the forest, a sleek, golden-spotted bobcat burst forward like a storm. Its amber eyes locked onto the python, and with no fear, it leapt. The bobcat sank its teeth into the serpent's body, clawing and snarling, ripping and tearing. The snake hissed in pain and fury, tightening once more around Amaya, but the bobcat did not stop. Blood sprayed. The python's coils loosened. Finally, with a loud snap of its jaws, the serpent slithered away into the bushes, wounded and defeated. Amaya collapsed to the ground, gasping for air, shaking. The bobcat stood nearby, panting, its fur streaked with blood, but not its own. Slowly, carefully, it stepped closer. Amaya, still too weak to speak, looked into the animal's eyes. They weren't cruel. They weren't wild. They were kind. The bobcat lowered its head, gave a short purr-like sound, then turned and vanished into the trees. Amaya was found hours later by searchers from the village. Her arms were bruised, her dress torn, but she was alive. She told them everything, the snake, the attack, the bobcat who saved her. But most didn't believe her. A bobcat? Her uncle scoffed. Those creatures don't protect people. They attack them. But Amaya knew the truth. That night, while the village whispered and argued, she quietly snuck to the back of her house, placed a piece of raw meat on a flat stone near the edge of her lawn, and waited. In the morning, the meat was gone. She did it again the next night. And the next. For nights later, while the moon was high and the stars scattered like diamonds in the sky, she saw him again. The bobcat. He didn't come too close. Just watched her from the shadows, eyes glowing softly. Amaya whispered, "Thank you," and sat down, humming softly. This became their routine. Every evening, Amaya left meat on the stone. Some nights, the bobcat, whom she named Shadow, would watch from a distance. Other nights, he came closer, crouching low, his ears flicking with each sound. In time, Shadow began to trust her. He would sit a few feet away as Amaya spoke to him about her day, about her dreams, about the things that scared her and the things she hoped for. She talked, and he listened. And slowly, a strange and beautiful friendship grew between a wild creature and a little girl with a kind heart. But the village noticed. Whispers began again. Women at the market muttered behind her mother's back. That girl, she's still feeding the beast. It's not safe. He could snap and kill her any day. Who does she think she is? Special? Men frowned. Elders warned. And jealousy began to fester. Some couldn't understand it. Others refused to accept it. The idea that a wild animal could care for a child went against everything they believed. But Amaya didn't care. Shadow was her friend. Every evening, he came. Every evening, she waited. Until one day, something changed. Amaya noticed a man in the village she hadn't seen before, wearing a green jacket and carrying a long metal pole. Her uncle whispered that he was from the wildlife department. Someone had reported a dangerous predator near the village. Amaya's heart sank. That evening, she ran to the lawn, her arms full of meat. She placed it on the stone and waited. Shadow didn't come. The next night, she tried again. Still nothing. On the third night, she went deeper, just a little, toward the forest's edge. There, she saw it, a cage. A trap. Set up with meat inside. Amaya's chest tightened. They were trying to catch him. She rushed home, tears in her eyes, but she couldn't tell anyone. They wouldn't understand. No one would believe her. But she had to do something. That night, she stayed near the trap, hidden behind a tree, waiting. She knew Shadow would come eventually. She just had to be there to stop him. Amaya crouched silently behind a thick bush, barely daring to breathe. The night air was cool, the scent of wet leaves thick around her. Just a few feet away, under a tree heavy with vines, sat the trap, metal, square, and cruel-looking, its door wide open, a chunk of raw meat hanging inside like bait. She had watched them place it earlier that day. Men from the village, along with two strangers in green uniforms, had walked around her lawn, the forest's edge, and even near her stone. They carried dart guns and spoke in hushed tones. One of them laughed and said, "These wild animals always come back for food. It's just a matter of time." Amaya's chest burned with anger. Shadow isn't just any wild animal. He was her protector. Her friend. The one who saved her when no one else could. And now they wanted to take him away, just because they were scared of something they didn't understand. She waited for hours. The moon rose high. Crickets chirped. The wind rustled the branches. Then she heard it, soft steps in the grass. Familiar. Light. Careful. Shadow. Her breath caught in her throat as the golden bobcat emerged from the trees. He looked thinner than before. His eyes scanned the lawn, his ears twitching. He didn't go straight to the trap. He circled it, nose to the wind. Please don't go inside, she thought. Please, please, please. Shadow stepped closer. His nose twitched. One paw, then another, inside the trap. Amaya sprang up. No. Her voice pierced the quiet forest like lightning. Shadow froze mid-step. His golden eyes locked onto hers. Then, in a single motion, he darted backward, out of the trap. From across the trees, someone shouted, "Hey!" Flashlights exploded through the trees. Men started running. Amaya turned and ran straight into the darkness. "Amaya," someone called. "Stop." She didn't. She kept running, heart pounding, legs burning, tears streaking down her cheeks. She didn't stop until she reached the giant rock near the river, a place she used to play with her older brother before he went away to school. Gasping for air, she collapsed, hugging her knees. Behind her, leaves rustled. She turned. Shadow had followed her. He stood just a few feet away, eyes watching, cautious but calm. "I'm sorry," Amaya whispered through sobs. "They're trying to take you." I didn't know what to do. The bobcat didn't run. He sat down slowly, tail wrapping around his legs, and stared at her with an expression so deep, so strangely human, it broke her heart. The next morning, the village buzzed with anger. Why did she interfere? The wildlife officer asked Amaya's parents. "It's dangerous. That thing is a predator." "She's just a child," her mother said, clutching Amaya tightly. "She doesn't understand." But Amaya did understand, far more than they thought. "They're wrong," she told her parents. "Shadow is not dangerous. He saved me. He listens to me. He understands." Her father tried to reason with her. "But sweetie, bobcats are wild animals. They're not meant to be pets. If he hurts someone—" "He won't," she shouted. "He would never hurt me." The argument went nowhere. That night, guards were posted. The trap was reset. And this time, it was hidden better. Amaya wasn't allowed outside after sunset. But the next morning, as the village woke and birds chirped from the rooftops, a loud cheer rang out from near the woods. They had caught him. Amaya ran barefoot, dodging people, ignoring shouts. When she reached the trap, her heart shattered. Shadow was inside. He wasn't growling or thrashing. He was lying down, quiet, his golden eyes dull. His tail barely moved. He had given up. "Let him go," she screamed. "Please. He didn't do anything wrong." The villagers stood around, some avoiding her gaze, others shaking their heads. "It's for everyone's safety," one man muttered. The wildlife officer nodded. "We'll be transporting him to a nature reserve 200 kilometers from here. He'll be fine." "But he won't come back," Amaya thought. They loaded the cage onto a truck. The engine rumbled. The vehicle started to move. She ran after it. "Shadow. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." Inside the cage, the bobcat lifted his head just slightly. Their eyes met one last time. Then the truck disappeared into the trees. For days, Amaya didn't eat. She didn't speak to anyone. She sat by the stone every evening, but it remained empty. Her schoolwork was left undone. Her smile vanished. She no longer felt like the girl with the heart of the wind. She felt broken. People stopped whispering after a while. They thought she'd forget. That she'd move on. She didn't. Weeks passed. Then one evening, as the wind howled through the trees and the first rain in days began to fall, Amaya sat near the lawn, watching the storm clouds gather. Then, she heard it. A familiar sound. A rustle. A step. She turned quickly. Her heart skipped a beat. At the edge of the trees stood a shadow. A golden shadow. Shadow. He was thinner, with a scar across his shoulder and a limp in one leg. But it was him. He had returned. Amaya ran across the wet grass, tears mixing with the rain. Shadow didn't move closer. He stood still. Watching. Wild. Free. Shadow stood at the edge of the forest, his fur soaked from rain, his golden eyes steady on Amaya. For a moment, neither moved. Thunder rumbled overhead. The sky flashed, then went quiet again. Amaya slowly stepped forward, her heart pounding. "You came back," she whispered, as if afraid her voice might chase him away. Shadow didn't flinch. He watched her, silent and still, like the forest itself. Then, with a small, graceful motion, he lowered himself to the ground, resting his head on his front paws, just like he used to when he waited for her near the lawn. Tears rolled down Amaya's cheeks. She sat across from him in the mud, not caring about the rain soaking her clothes. "They took you so far," she said softly. "I didn't think I'd ever see you again." Shadow blinked slowly, and Amaya smiled through her tears. That blink, it was his way of saying, "I trust you." That night, she snuck him food again. Not on the old stone. This time, she placed it at the very edge of the forest, hidden behind the big log. She knew the village was watching now. If they discovered he had returned, they would never give him another chance. So, their secret friendship began again, quiet, cautious, and hidden. Shadow came only at dusk. He never crossed the tree line. Amaya never called out to him when others were near. Sometimes, she would leave drawings or small wooden carvings she made just for him. He would nudge them gently with his nose before disappearing into the trees again. Weeks passed. She saw him grow stronger, the limp faded, the scar faded. He was healthy again. But the village hadn't forgotten. One evening, while Amaya sat on her porch humming a lullaby, her neighbor Mrs. Dalla came over and sat beside her. "You've seemed happier lately," she said, her voice careful. Amaya nodded. "Shadow's back, isn't he?" Amaya's heart stopped. She didn't answer. Mrs. Dalla placed a hand on her shoulder. "Child. I don't want to hurt you. But others won't be as kind. If they find out he's here, they'll try to take him again. This time, it may not be to a reserve." Amaya's lips trembled. "But he's done nothing wrong. He saved me. He just wants to be near." Mrs. Dalla gave a sad smile. "I believe you. But fear makes people do cruel things." That night, Amaya didn't sleep. Her mind twisted with worry. Shadow couldn't stay here forever. The more he stayed, the greater the danger, for both of them. But the thought of letting him go again. It crushed her. The next day, she made a decision. At sunrise, she walked deep into the forest where she had once been attacked. Shadow followed quietly behind. He trusted her now more than ever. She stopped by the river, turned, and knelt in front of him. "You saved me once," she said. "Now it's my turn." She pulled out a small bundle from her bag, meat, her favorite red scarf, and a wooden carving of a bobcat she had made just for him. "I love you," she whispered, placing the items gently on a rock. "But it's not safe here. They'll come again. And this time, I might not be able to stop them." Shadow stepped forward, nudged the carving with his nose, and looked at her. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I need you to go far away. Somewhere they can't find you. Somewhere you can be free." Shadow didn't move. So she stepped back. Slowly. "You have to go," she said, her voice trembling. "Please." The forest was quiet. Then, with a final look, the bobcat turned. His golden fur faded into the shadows. And he was gone. Amaya returned home in silence. The stone in the lawn remained empty that night. And the next. And the one after that. People noticed she no longer wandered near the trees. That she smiled less, but grew wiser. Years passed. Amaya grew older. She became known as the girl who once walked beside a wild beast, and lived. And though many still didn't believe her story, they admired her for her bravery. But every once in a while, she would walk alone to the edge of the forest and sit by the river. She would place something small on the rock, a carving, a note, a piece of fruit, and wait. And sometimes, just sometimes, she'd hear a soft rustle in the trees. A golden shadow, watching from afar. Never close, but always near. Because some bonds, even between the wild and the human, can never be broken.